So A-Rod had his steroid press conference today. Here's what I thought last week after the Peter Gammons interview on ESPN. So Alex Rodriguez has gone from A-Rod to A-Fraud to A-Roy. Personally, I just think he's an a-hole. He's in the interview and he's basically, I'm sorry for, let me think about it. What am I sorry for? Well, it was just real permissive back then and things were just real relaxed in baseball. And if you're going to say you're sorry for something and take responsibility for it, you can't take responsibility and then spend the next couple of minutes every time you say you're sorry and take responsibility, spend the rest of your time retracting it and saying why it's not your fault and why what you did was okay. Either you're sorry and you're responsible or you're not responsible. Well, I have to give it to A-Rod a little bit today. He was less self-absorbed, arrogant, and pretentious as he usually is. And he was a little more contrite and less relying on his excuse that it was a different era and more relaxed back then. Though he did kind of fall back on the excuse that he was just young, dumb, and ignorant. I guess he thinks we all are dumb and ignorant by some of the things he has to say to us. Whereas where I have to knock A-Rod as well, for some of the following. Check it out, a couple things. Last week during the interview, he said, he didn't have any idea of what he took. As if there's some way that he didn't know at all whatsoever he might have taken for 2.5, 3 years. But today he comes back and names the main substance he says he took during that time period. Well, it's kind of good that he came clean today, but what that means is he was lying last week when he said he didn't know. Another thing that happened in the interview today, and I caught him when he started to say this, and the wheels started spinning in my head, and then one of the reporters asked him about it. At first he was saying during the interview that he and his cousin were, they didn't want anybody to know what they were doing, and so they didn't really talk to anybody else about it. They did it on their own, and they were so ignorant he doesn't even think that he was applying it right or he was using it properly because they didn't talk to anybody else and they just kind of did it on their own. And then later on he starts to say, well, I didn't really think it was wrong at the time because since I was buying it over the counter, I didn't really think it was a steroid. And since it was just over the counter, I didn't think it was a wrong substance or anything really wrong with it. So I really didn't know I had done anything wrong until I had the test in 2003 and got the results back in 2004. But like I said, the wheels started spinning in my head, and one of the reporters called him on it. Well, if you didn't think there was anything wrong with it and you thought the substance was okay, then why didn't you ask anybody about how to properly use it and what to take and get some advice on using the supplement if you didn't think anything was wrong with it? And his response was, you saw his eyes start turning in his head so he could try to figure out what his lie was going to be to try to put together these two different contradicting things he had said. And he finally goes, well, that's a good question. I was just young and dumb. Yeah, again, he thinks we're all ignorant and dumb. Can't give you too much credit there, A-Roy. Anyhow, I gotta knock the reporters as well because they came with their usual foolishness and nonsense that they always bring to the table. Especially when you're talking about sports reporters. They're a special breed of just making things up to either fill air or try to make a point. And when they don't have any facts or information or anything intelligent to say, they just make shit up. It's like a pastime of sports broadcasters and sports reporters to do. So this one reporter stands up and he says, well, since professional athletes are so, they so strongly monitor everything they put into their body, how could you not have known what you were taking and not have done more research about it? Where did this ridiculous nonsense come from that all athletes are particularly meticulous and monitor everything they that they put in their bodies? He's just making that up. That's nonsense. Every athlete is not a health freak who does scientific research on everything they eat or ingest at any time or that goes into their body at any time. Take a John Kruk, for instance. He monitored everything that went into his body because so much went into it, and he just loved food, obviously. He looked like a friggin' right pulling guard on a football team, though he was a pitcher. And he looked like an unhealthy one at that, just for example. Even with the guys who were very strong physique and very healthy, yes, they might have a particular regimen and specific things that they like to take. And they work out very hard and they're very meticulous about doing their workouts. That doesn't mean that they are meticulous about looking at every single thing they put in their body and doing background research on it and breaking it down to the molecule. That's just made up nonsense. The same reporters do that all the time. This is kind of how where people say things, and just because it's repeated all the time, then it somehow is taken as a fact or as the truth. I mean, for instance, people say that if you have a bloody nose, you're supposed to hold your head back and pinch your nose. No, you're not. If you hold your head back when your nose is running, you're just draining the blood back into your throat. That's dumb. You're supposed to pinch your nose to clot the blood, just like you would clot blood anywhere else with pressure. You pinch your nose for pressure. Just because everybody says you're supposed to hold your head back doesn't make it true. It's still stupid no matter how many people say it. Or people say the golden rule. That's not in the Bible. I mean, some people say it. A lot of people like to say it's in the Bible, but it's not. And it may sum up a lot of the sentiments of the Bible, but do unto others as thou shalt do unto you just doesn't appear in the Bible. Those words are not there. I know. I read the whole thing. So just because people say something a lot doesn't make it true. I posted a live webcast of the press conference as it was going on at my blog, www.blackperspective.net. Now I have video there of the press conference and some other links to some other opinions about it that you can check out if you like. Over there in the sidebar will be a live link to that post if you want to check that out.